I like to tell people you niche down so far sometimes that you can't see, like you're like in this rut and you can't see over the sides, right? You only know what you know, and you kind of don't know what else is out there or how to communicate effectively. And it's, it's just very interesting in the creative profession. We're taught to be communicators, visual, verbal, whatever it is. But when it comes to ourselves, it's like you kind of can't see the label from inside the bottle. So you don't know how you're coming across sometimes, because it's just really hard to make those decisions for yourself in your self promotion, to be able to manage your clients, to be able to interview correctly, to be able to have a conversation about a promotion or negotiate a salary. It's like people just freeze up, but they're great at doing it as a freelancer, but they're not great at doing it for themselves.
Yeah. Welcome to the Business Ownership Podcast, brought to you by Awareness Strategies, helping you navigate the waters between entrepreneurship and ownership. Hey there, peeps. This is Michelle Netwalak, and I am super glad that you are here with us today. And I'm getting tongue-tied already. I can't even say my own name. I am here with my most amazing guest, Jamie. Jamie, thank you so much for being here with us today.
I am super excited to chat with you. This is awesome. It's a very exciting experience.
Nice. So give us a highlight of who you are and what you do for business.
Oh my goodness. Well, my background is actually graphic design, creative direction. I worked in advertising and marketing for 20 years. And in 2020, I had a complete change, as a lot of people did. And I got laid off. I ended up having to lay off half my team. So I decided at the end of the year that I was going to start my own business, helping other creatives sell themselves so that they could actually get jobs, get noticed, be able to move forward, because, the world was upside down and everybody was trying to figure out what their next moves were. And I realized that I had the experience to be able to help people understand how to market themselves, how to present themselves when they're going for full-time work, part-time work, contract work, freelance work, whatever it is. And so that was the epiphany that I had in 2020. Like, I could actually use my skills in a different way. And so I did a soft launch at the end of the year on my birthday. Yay. And we are now moving forward with all kinds of other things. I originally just started coaching, and now I do public speaking. I have a podcast. I do live events. I do workshops. It obviously grows over time, right? As you figure out the needs of your audience.
Absolutely. It makes it really difficult to be able to answer, what do you do?
I know, right? Exactly. Because you kind of have to know the backstory a little bit to understand how I got here, because otherwise I'm like, oh, I'm a career coach. And that seems like, okay. And what else, right?
So what made you decide to work with creatives? I mean, other than they're the most fun group to work with possibly.
Well, having been on the inside of that and having gone through all the struggles that creatives go through as a designer, as someone who, started out in the industry with no awareness of, how self-promotion worked, how sales worked when it came to marketing yourself, because you're taught in design school, if you go to school for something that is, advertising related, you can market other people. But what I saw as a hiring manager, once I started to move up through the ranks in my own career, that people just had a terrible time selling themselves, and a lot of talented people were kind of hidden. And so I thought, well, I've been on the other side of this, and I've worked in agencies, I've worked in in-house experiences, and I kind of know what it takes to reach those specific audiences. And so I thought, maybe if I use my insights and skills and give people the leg up that I never had when I was like first starting out, and also growing in my career, moving from individual contributor and moving into management and leadership and, running departments. You don't know what you don't know. And if you don't have someone to ask, it can be really hard and you make mistakes. So I really wanted to kind of pay it forward, help people figure out where they could go with their careers, but also that, they have something unique. And I recognize that I had that throughout my career. I just didn't quite know how to position myself a lot of the times. And that's, it's the cobbler's children have no shoes, right? We advertise for some of the biggest global companies in the world, but when it comes to us as creatives, we're like, what do we say? Right? So I really, kind of wanted to help demystify that process for creatives who are looking to move forward in their career or get back into the workforce after getting laid off or furloughed. So yeah. So that's really, it's my own experience that kind of created this niche. And I recognized that there was a gap here. No one was really doing this for creatives specifically.
Right. And to me, it is so important, because I think a lot of people, especially if they have experience working with a big company, they have really, and how could they no idea about the intricacies of being in your own business. It's not only do you have to know your craft, but then you have to know how to promote yourself. Then you have to know how to message it properly. And then you have to have processes that people can relate to. And you're like, no, I'm specialized in this. So
Right.
I no longer have anything that people can relate to. That's why I do what I do.
Totally, totally. Yeah. And it's, I like to tell people you niche down so far sometimes that you can't see, like you're like in this rut and you can't see over the sides, right? You only know what you know, and you kind of don't know what else is out there or how to communicate effectively. And it's, it's just very interesting in the creative profession. We're taught to be communicators, visual, verbal, whatever it is. But when it comes to ourselves, it's like you kind of can't see the label from inside the bottle. So you don't know how you're coming across sometimes, because it's just really hard to make those decisions for yourself in your self promotion, to be able to manage your clients, to be able to interview correctly, to be able to have a conversation about a promotion or negotiate a salary. It's like people just freeze up, but they're great at doing it as a freelancer, but they're not great at doing it for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And I can imagine you're an absolute blast to work with. What does it look like when somebody walks into your office and starts going, oh my God?
Oh my God. Well, I'm a very low energy person. No,
Yeah, I can tell.
obviously I'm high energy. I love a lot of color. I love design. I mean, my whole life has been geared towards this. I knew I wanted to do something creative with my life since I was probably 4 or 5 years old. So I like to bring people into a positive, optimistic experience, because what I recognize when people come to work with me, they're very vulnerable. And a lot of times they're in a position that is stressful, right? They're not making enough money in their business. They're not making enough money in their full-time job. They haven't gotten any callbacks on resumes that they've been sending out for a year, and they're feeling pretty bad. And so I really like to make sure that I can bring, this level of energy that maybe they don't have in their life right now, and something that can kind of like make them see like, yes, I still have value, even though I'm struggling right now. It just means we need to adjust some things. It doesn't mean that I don't have value. I like to boost people's confidence. I like to, create inspiration, provide guidance. I'm both sort of practical and, maybe motivational at the same time, because I do think those things, it's important to see yourself as valuable, because if you don't see yourself as valuable, no one else will, right? So I try to bring that energy in and just make sure people are enjoying working with me, because it is kind of vulnerable when you're going through someone's creative work. You're looking at their portfolio, you're making comments about their resume, about how they sell themselves. You're working through interview conversations with them. You're helping them pitch to clients. And you have to give feedback, and people get very sensitive. And so it has to be an open dialogue and has to feel good. Otherwise, they're not going to want to take my advice, because they're going to think that I'm just another person telling them that they're doing things wrong, when really it's more about educating yourself about how you need to speak to your audience.
Absolutely. I can't imagine anybody having a 15-minute meeting with you because they're like, no, I won't. It's been so much fun. Let's keep doing. But when it comes to kind of being able to highlight the aspects of people, because obviously you're looking at kind of, yeah, you did this wrong, you did that wrong, but this is how I want to highlight you, because you're doing awesome stuff and we want to be able to see it. In that process, is there kind of ways that you help people to be able to kind of transition from the I feel like crap about this, and people, entrepreneurs especially, feel like their business is a reflection of who they are?
Absolutely. Yes. And, the freelancers I work with, or the people who are, building their own freelance business or trying to move into freelance, especially, that's really hard, because you do have to put yourself out there. It's not figured out for you, as if, when you're working full time for someone gives you the roadmap for the business and you just follow that, right? You're supporting it. But when you're working for yourself, you have to actually build the business and you have to create the work. And so it's twofold, right? And, I think that one of the things that I do that's really helpful for people is we go into what I call the story strategy session. It's before we look at your work, before we dive into how you're promoting yourself, what your site looks like, what your work looks like, what your pitches look like, what your, those intake calls look like. We go through who you are as a creative human. And what I do is take people back to like their first memory of what made you feel great about being a creative person. And this can be something that's, really formative in preschool. This can be an experience in high school, college, whatever. And if you can get them to understand that that memory was the kind of pivoting point, and there's a feeling associated with that, then we can find all the other places where that feeling exists. And if you can show them that there's this pattern, this repetition throughout their life, they then can go towards the feeling instead of the logical, like, oh, well, I should do this because the algorithm says this. It's like, maybe you don't like that. Maybe that's not how you found kind of that creative joy in the past. So let's identify where it exists before we make the decisions on how you should promote yourself, because self-promotion is so personal. And especially when you're, like you said, you identify with your business, you need to feel 100% with what you're putting out there. It can't feel separate from you as a human, especially a creative human. So if we can merge those two things, people just have a better time figuring out how to make decisions, because it's like, oh, it feels natural. It doesn't necessarily feel forced. And I think when people have a pitch that feels forced, they don't want to say it. They don't want to put themselves out there. They don't want to go to networking events. They don't want to go to talks and mingle with other creatives, or they don't want to go to community events where they might have potential clients. They don't like to put themselves out there. They don't even want to make LinkedIn posts. But if you have something that you feel like, oh, this is me and I love doing this because this is who I am, you're going to want to repeat it. So it really starts with that critical kind of understanding of who you are as a creative person, what sparks your joy, and then let's repeat that so that it's sustainable. Because otherwise, we all know if we're doing things that we don't enjoy, we just keep doing them, burnout is down the road, right? And especially as a business owner, I know, running this business, and I had a side hustle LLC as a graphic designer for 10 years while I was working full time, because most creatives like to have a little something on the side so they have a little more creative freedom. So I know the struggle of like identifying with that business and being able to put yourself out there consistently and not feeling like it's stressing you out or it's making you feel like, wow, am I even going in the right direction? Like that feeling is your divining rod, right? So if you go towards that, the success happens because it's natural to who you are.
Nice. I love it. All the engineers are going, what? I thought all the creatives were like, they invented TikTok, didn't they? Instagram. Like all the engineers are trying to figure this stuff out, thinking that the creatives got it down pat. And it's like, wow, I totally relate to everything you just said.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Humans are all the same, no matter what field you're in. Right.
Absolutely. So when it comes to kind of the mistakes they made, we've mentioned a few of the things, but what do you find are the kind of the real struggles of, I just don't know how to put out, the thing that I'm supposed to be putting it out, or is it just I don't want to put the thing out because it's about me?
Yes. Well, I think it's twofold. So I think it's, we often look at what other people do and we think that's our path. Right. And so we're like, oh, this person has a freelance business and they're working with these clients and it seems like they're really successful. So I should do that. I should work with, healthcare companies or financial services or, something that maybe you actually don't enjoy that type of work, but you're seeing the success of someone else. So you're assuming if I take those steps, I will have that same success. And like I said before, because who you are inside as a creative human and what sparks your joy is going to be different than that person. I see a lot of people doing this comparison thing where they're trying to copy the successes of other people by doing what someone else has done. But like, they don't understand that they're not them. They have a different point of view. They probably have different experience. They probably have different industry knowledge. And that person who's working for financial services, maybe they worked in financial services. Maybe they have, a partner who works. Maybe they know the kind of inside jargon, and that's what is helping them pitch to those organizations or get more business. But if you're just patterning success after someone else, and I realized this early on starting my coaching business, you're actually running someone else's business. You're not running your own business because it's not true to who you are. So figuring that out and recognizing you can take cues and feedback and you can understand, okay, that person, they have a YouTube channel. Maybe that's a thing for me. But you have to think, do I like this? Is this where my audience is? Don't just, follow in someone else's footsteps because they saw success. And you're like, oh, looks like they're making tons of money. They have all this freedom. They have all the things that entrepreneurs want, right? They have control. They're rising up in the industry. It's going to be different for everybody. And so I think the one mistake people make when they self-promote is they try to do it like someone else. And it's like, that's not what the world's about. Like, we all bring unique things. We all have a different seat at the table. So you have to go with your strengths and your true self to have that success, because that person did that and they're having success, but it's going to be different for everybody. So recognizing that and stop the comparison and that leads to the imposter syndrome and all those things that are just like, they weigh you down and they make you question your abilities. And can I even do this? And then, you feel vulnerable and you feel like you're not doing the right things because you're running someone else's business. You have to run your own business. So whether you're looking for full-time work or looking for more clients for your freelance business, it's all the same. You have to be authentic to who you are and not just copy somebody else because you think that's the path. Because if there was a formula, we'd all be rich, right?
Right.
There's no formula for this.
Well, and I may be beating a dead horse here, but I think there's a lot of confusion around the like, what's my voice and how am I bringing that out to what is the voice of my client and should I be kind of relating to them and how they're doing? And then it's like, well, yeah, but am I solving their problems and what they want, or am I just going out and having fun and being me?
Right. And I think, you have to connect the two, right? You have to be aware of, okay, these are the things I know about. These are the things I enjoy doing. These are the areas that give me energy versus like take my energy. And so where is the audience for those things? And because there's always an audience somewhere. But if you say, I'm going to target this audience, and you don't really authentically know what it's like to be that audience or how that audience operates or makes decisions or what they're looking for, it's going to be really hard to understand them. So you have to start from a point of like knowing yourself and like, this is what I actually like. Like I really love working with people in healthcare industries because I feel like I'm helping other people. I'm helping people make decisions about their health and, their medical care. Okay, great. That feels good to you. Where are those people? Figure out where those people are and figure out what's out there, what's attracting them, and then start to, make inroads that direction. But if you're just doing it because you're seeing dollar signs or someone else, is like, this is a great business, you should get into that. And you're like, I don't really like this. This is not, my thing. You're never going to feel successful because it's going to grind you down, right? It's going to take your energy. So understanding that like whatever is right for you, there's a place for it out there. And I always tell people when they're looking for jobs, there's a job for everyone. You just haven't found your thing. And it's okay that it's taking a little bit longer because it means it's going to be the right thing for you if you're not just taking anything. And we've all had the experience of just taking a job out of fear or taking a client out of fear, and it's a disaster. Instantly, this was a bad idea. This person is going to drain my energy. I'm going to be working weekends. They're going to have so many demands. I don't want to deal with this, or like this job is going to kill me and I'm stuck in it. And it's hard to find another one when you're in one, right? So really making that connection with who you are. And I think that's the thing I try to bring to my clients. It's not about just the words in your resume, the SEO value of your website, the samples in your portfolio. It's about who it speaks to. And you have to figure that out. But that's like step 2 after you figure yourself out.
Right. Could you imagine Picasso trying to go, oh, I should paint more like Rembrandt. And, maybe I'll get in with that.
Yes. Like, okay. Like, I think I'll be, yeah, exactly. Like Renaissance. That sounds good. It's like, no, that's not your thing. That's a great example. And that's what we do a lot of times, especially the visual creatives. Cause you see, all you need to do is see campaigns on other people's websites. And you're like, oh my gosh, like maybe I should try and work for Adidas. Maybe you have no interest in athletics at all. Like that's not your thing. Right. And so just recognizing that everyone is unique, especially in the creative world, because there's no two ways to solve a creative problem and everybody brings their own thing. And so just knowing that it's okay. If you're taking the time to do this, you're going to be more successful in the long run than if you just jump into something that maybe you're making some money, but like it doesn't feel good. And running the business can be hard when you're exhausted, right?
Awesome. So in a moment, I'm going to ask you about a Cinderella story of one of your clients. But before I do that, we're going to go on a quick break.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention. You do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap. They offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.
So I am super excited to hear about a Cinderella story of one of your clients.
Oh my goodness. So this is the thing that fills me with the most joy is hearing back from people after we've worked together. And it's been, I'm in my third year of this business. And so it's fast and furious, but I'm now at the point where people are coming back to me because the people I helped in my first year are now like into a job. They've made the changes and they've come back to me and said, I have these opportunities. This is so great. So, this is why I do this. Cause if you change someone's work life, you change their whole life. So I have a client who I worked with early on. And this person had very low self-esteem, and I could tell they were in a job that was just not utilizing their skills, not challenging them. They felt really bad about, what they were doing for work because they felt like it was less than what they could do. And they were running their own freelance business. So they were working full-time for these clients. And it was kind of just like, well, they pay me. So if they're paying me, I'll just continue to work for them. But it was kind of eating away at them. So fast forward to, we work through the process. We talk about what makes this person great, what their niche is, how they need to approach companies, how they need to think about the work that they're doing, and how it relates to the field of creative and like where they can really dive in and help other businesses. And so we worked through a few sessions. They fast forward to like very recently, actually, I got a request for an update meeting because I always meet with past clients. You can do a one-off with me if you're a past client, because if I can help you just like jump into a project or figure out how to negotiate or whatever, that's great. So I get a request for a one-off meeting, and this person tells me, hey, I just want to, I want to bring you up to speed with where I'm at. And I want to get some advice for going into this new role because I've been accepted into a position that I didn't think I would ever get. It's, it's where my creativity wants to be. I feel super valued. I feel seen. I feel heard. And this is the clincher, they also told me that they left what they previously described as a cult. So this person had enough confidence after our sessions together to not only change their work life, but to change their whole life. And I thought, oh my gosh, I have never experienced something like this, because when you see people get the jobs that they love, get the clients that they love, that's super fulfilling. But knowing that this person was able to pull themselves away from something that was really holding them down, was, dictating how and where they could work. And they had, the wherewithal to say, actually, no, I have more value. I have more value as a creative person. I have more value to the organizations that are out there. And they started to back away. And so because of that, they were kind of ostracized from this community. And, this person says it's a spiritual community, but the description of them dictating how and where they work and how many hours a night they sleep and what they eat, that's a cult. And so it was like, okay. And I just was so shocked because that's the most impact I've ever had with someone. And it was all based on helping them understand their value, where that value would be helpful to other people, and how they could get there. And it was like, wow, that's a byproduct I did not see, because I didn't know they were in that situation when we originally worked together. I just knew this person was really having some serious challenges with their self-worth. So,
right.
yeah.
Well, and even if it's not, if it's not a formalized cult, it can feel that way when you're just not able to get out of that box that somebody's created. And a lot of businesses think that their branding is this box. This is your creative, outline. Do not color outside the box.
Right. Right.
So
yeah.
How do corporations work with kind of bringing on new talents, arts, how does that all happen and stay within their branding and all of the other issues that come with creatives?
Yeah, it's hard to hire, to know what to look for hiring creatives. And that's the other part of my business. And I've given live talks at different summits for agencies around hiring creatives and around retention, because you have to know how someone thinks in order to understand how they're going to work within the sphere of your brand or with your clients. And so instead of just looking at the portfolio and saying like, oh, okay, I work for a large sportswear company. They've done other sportswear, advertising, they've done design, they've done copy, whatever it is, video, multimedia. Instead of just looking like apples to apples at the portfolio, you really have to dig into how that person thinks, what their creative process is, how they work in a team, how they will collaborate or need that kind of alone time to, figure out their ideas, because how they do their work is more important than the actual work. So a lot of times, HR managers, marketing managers, people that are hiring creatives, whether it's a freelance contract or full-time, They look at the work and they're like, oh, we do that. They did video, we do video. They do social media, we do social media. But they don't dig into how this person thinks, because all creatives have a different process. And if you have a creative that, the portfolio is great, but once they get in, they don't really work like the rest of your team. They don't do well at brainstorms. They don't do well in front of the clients. There's someone who likes to be behind the scenes. Their work doesn't tell you that because you don't really know how that got done, right? You don't know how it got accomplished. And if there's someone who is uncomfortable in front of a client, and I've seen some failures where somebody has great work and you think, oh, great, we'll just put them in the client meeting, they'll do the pitch, and they just stumble. They can't respond to feedback. They can't ideate on the spot because that's not how their brain works. They need more processing time for their work. And so digging into that more importantly than digging into like, tell me about this brochure, tell me about this video, what did you do on social? People look at the work and assume that the work is going to speak for the creative, but really you have to dig into who that person is in the process of them getting their work done. And does that align with your team that's existing? Or does it align with you if you're a solopreneur, right? Like, is this person going to be responsive? If you're a high energy, responsive, I'm up at 5 a.m. person, and that person is rolling out of bed at 11 and they get you stuff late at night and they have a delay with their, rev cycle, like it's not going to work. So you have to figure out that process and how that creative brain works. So that's my number one tip. And I do work with companies to help them figure out the questions to ask in interviews, all those things that will get you to those answers. So, yes, this person's going to be a great fit on the team and they have great work versus they have great work. We're going to see how it goes, because no one likes to see how it goes, especially when you've hired someone full time or you have a client that depends on that person's work. That is super dangerous. And I've seen some agency major failures where they have to, let an art director go. And that client's like, what happened to Jim? Where'd Jim go? Right. And it's like, oh, we have a new person. And that client is not interested in the new person because they like Jim, but Jim wasn't really pulling his weight. So like, it can be really hard to, put yourself out there and be vulnerable with like, okay, we're going to pull this person in and our revenue depends on their like process and cycle. You have to figure that out in advance. And then everybody's happy, right? Because if it's broken for one, it's broken for both. So as long as everybody's aligned on how the work gets done, it's going to be great work. Client's going to be happy. Managers are going to be happy. It'll be a love fest.
I love it. And peeps, if you don't know what your culture is and you don't know the answer to those questions, go and talk to Jamie, because she will pull those questions out of you, because the answers are already there, even though your experience with them may not be there yet.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes you can't see it, right? And that's what I help people do is like, I recognize, because I've been in so many different environments, small, large, global, agency, in-house, single solopreneur, like I know exactly kind of the styles of work in those different types of environments and different industries, right? Technical, non-technical. So there's always a thing. And when you're in it so deeply, sometimes you just don't see it.
Right. I know our peeps are going to want more from you. How did they start that journey with you?
Oh my goodness. Well, you can go to my website, rockthatcreativejob.com. There's contact forms on there. You can also read about me. I have a YouTube channel. I have a Rock That Creative Job podcast, and you can email me at rockthatcreativejob@gmail.com, or you can follow me on LinkedIn, connect with me there. You can connect with me on Instagram. You can connect with me on TikTok. I'm all over the place. So, but if you want, you can start at my website if that's a better place to go.
That's awesome. We will, of course, have all of Jamie's links in the show notes. Go ahead and scroll down, click on the links, open up in a new browser, because we're not done yet. So, Jamie, you kind of alluded to the story of how you found your entrepreneurial journey, but at what point did you know you were special kind of crazy enough to think that you could become an entrepreneur?
I think honestly, it was when I realized I was working a million hours, for someone else. And I thought, I'm already doing this. And, I've had so many experiences, especially working in marketing departments, working in agencies. I had seen enough about, how to put yourself out there, how to build your brand, all that. And so I thought, I'd like to give this a shot, because I do think I know my audience and I feel like I have something for them. Like I really wanted to help. That was the goal. It was like, how could I help people? So I just, I put 3 offers out there thinking, all right, I'll just coach. I'll help you with your resume, your portfolio, interviews, see what happens. And I recognized that like people were excited because no one else was doing this. So I thought, okay, I'll keep going. And so I slowly built, but as sometimes you come to, you're like, I'm going to do this thing. And then you come to a dead end and you realize that's not for me. I actually don't enjoy that. I'm going to go back to this other thing. So, pivoting has helped me, like recognizing that it's not a failure, it's just a learning experience. And, on the road of growing this business, it's like, I want to do what I'm best at, what I'm good at, what energizes me. And, having been in the advertising industry, it's like, it's long hours, it's crazy clients, it's, all kinds of different things, personality showcase. And I thought, I can handle that. Like, I could absolutely do this on my own. There's a lot of other things that go into it that we don't anticipate, like all the financial components and the taxes and the numbers. And I'm not a numbers person, which is why I went to school for design. But that said, there are professionals that can help you. So I figure if I get the professionals to help me with my weaknesses, I can play to my strengths, and I just keep going. And that's the hardest part. You just have to keep going, right? You just have to know that you're nuts enough to not want to work 40 hours, but work 80 instead. But at least it's for you.
Awesome. You've been absolutely awesome. Any last words for our peeps?
I think, just remember that if you're in it, it's a journey, and we have to embrace the journey. And that's something that's a hard lesson I learned over the first year. I thought, oh, this will be great. But if we can just embrace the journey, 50% of life sucks, 50% of life is amazing. And, we don't know what we're going to get the next day, and no day is promised to us. So as long as we have a positive attitude and we, take the learnings and we pivot and we adjust and we keep moving forward little by little, we're going to get to the goal that we want.
Thank you so much for your time, Jamie. I appreciate it, and I know how valuable it is.
It's awesome to be here. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Peeps, this is Michelle Nedelak. Thank you for being here with us today. Be sure to subscribe to the show and share it with your friends. We love helping entrepreneurs grow.
Are you running a business over 7 figures but still struggling with technology headaches? Pay attention, you do not want to miss this offer. This podcast episode is brought to you by Awareness Strategies, who is offering a custom-built digital adoption roadmap for anyone running a business over 7 figures who's wanting to grow their business in the next 5 years. And it's not just a roadmap, they offer full implementation as well if that scares the out of you. Check out awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap for more details today. The link's in the show's notes. Don't regret not doing this. Do it now. That's awarenessstrategies.com/roadmap.